Welcome everyone to this live podcast on Twitch, where you can find the news from the research industry that how our researchers keep on researching on various topics to keep our lifestyle better and useful, of course. And yes, this articles posted on our website named postscientist.com. If you are willing to check it out, please check it out. Otherwise, listening to this podcast will be enough for you guys, as it acts like an archive on the daily basis, providing you the information from the research industry. So let's get started without wasting any further time. The first topic of the day: T2 CI GAN, a deep learning model that generates complex images from text. Of course, we already knows, but let's see what we get in this deep learning project. Generative Adversarial Network GAN, a class of machine learning frameworks that can generate new text, images, videos, and voice recordings, have been found to be highly valuable for tackling numerous real world problems. For instance, GANs have been successfully used to generate image dataset, to train other deep learning algorithms, to generate videos or animation for specific uses, and to create suitable caption for images, of course. Researchers at the Computer Vision Biometric Lab of IIT Allahabad and Vignan University in India recently developed a new GAN based model that can generate compressed images from text based description. This model, introduced in a paper published on Arxiv, could open interesting possibility for image storage and for the sharing of content between different smart devices. The idea of T2 CI GAN is aligned with the team of direct processing analytics of data in the compressed domain without full decompression, on which we have been working on since 2012. Mohammad Javed, one of the researchers who carried out the study, told Tech Explode. However, the idea in T2 CI GAN is a bit different, as here we wanted to produce retrieve images in the compressed form given the text description of the image. In their past studies, Javed and his colleagues used GAN and other deep learning models to tackle numerous tasks, including the extraction of features from data, the segmentation of text and image data, spotting words in large text excerpts to created complex GPG files. The new model they created builds on the previous effort to address a computational problem that has so far rarely explored in the literature. While several other research teams have used deep learning based method to generate image based on text description, only a few of these methods produce images in their compressed form. In addition, most exciting technique that generate compressed images approach the task of generating the image and compressing it separately, which increases the computation load and processing time. T2CI again is a deep learning based model that takes the text description as an input and produces visual images in the compressed form. Javed explained. The advantage here is that the conventional method produces visual images from text description and they further subject those images to compression to produce compressed images. Our model, on the other hand, can directly map learn the text description and produce compressed images. Javed and his colleagues developed two distinct GAN-based models for generating compressed images from text description. The first of these models was trained on a dataset containing compressed DCT, discrete cosine transform images in the GPG format. After training, this model was able to generate compressed images based on text description. The researcher's second GAN-based model, on the other hand, was trained on a set of RGB images. This model learned to generate GPG compressed GCD representation of images, which specifically express a sequence of data points as a mathematical equation. T2CI GAN is the future because we know that the world is moving towards machine, robot to machine, and man to machine communication, Javed said. In such a scenario, machine only need data in the compressed form to interpret or understand them. For example, imagine, that a person is asking Alexa, bot, to send her childhood photo to her best friend. Alexa will understand the person voice image task description and try to search for this photo. Which would already be stored somewhere in the compressed form and send it directly to her friend. Of course, man. Javed and his colleague evaluated the model in a series of tests using the renowned Oxford 102 flower dataset, which contained several pictures of flowers categorized into 102 flower types. Their results were highly promising as the model could generate compressed JPG version of images in the flower dataset both quickly and efficiently. The T2CI GAN model could be used to improve automated image retrieval systems, particularly when source images are meant to be easily shared with smartphones or other smart devices. In addition, it could prove to a valuable tool for media and communication professionals, helping them to retrieve lighter versions of specific images to share on an online platform. Currently, the T2CI GAN model with procedure images only in JPG compressed from Javed added. In our future work, we would likely to see whether we can have a general model that can produce images in our compressed form without any constraint of compression algorithm, of course. So, I mean, it's basically a social media platform or a common server where have been set and collected all the information. Like he already gave the example of the Alexa bot, that if you tell the instruction about the Alexa, that send my childhood photo to one of my friend who named already been registered, of course, and saved. So uh, it already being sent to that friend by one voice instruction to the Alexa bot, and which we already do in our social media. We already see every image in a compressed form because it's been a very heavy file, which is not being, uh, right in terms in any social media, like whether it's a Facebook or Insta or whatever the social media is. So it's like a same project, deep learning project, which he is talking about. Moving on to our next topic. Astrophysicists make observation consistent with their prediction of an alternative theory of gravity. Okay, let's see. An international team of astrophysicists has made a puzzling discovery while analyzing certain star clusters. The finding challenges Newton's laws of gravity. The researchers write in their publication. Instead, the observations are consistent with their prediction of an alternate theory of gravity. However, this is controversial among experts. The results have now been published in monthly notice of the Royal Astronomical Society. In their work, the researchers investigate open star clusters. They are formed when thousands of stars are born within a short time in a huge gas cloud. As they ignite, the galactic newcomers blow away the remnants of the gas cloud. In the process, the cluster expands considerably. This creates a loose formation of several dozen to several thousand stars. The weak gravitational force acting between them holds the cluster together. In most cases, open star clusters survive only a few 100 million years before the dissolve, explained Professor Dr. Pavel Krupa of the Helmholtz Institute of Radiation and Nuclear Physics at the University of Bonn. In the process, they regularly lose stars which accumulate in two so-called tidal tails. One of these tails is pulled behind the cluster as it travels through space. The other, in contrast, take the lead like a spread head. According to Newton's laws of gravity, it's a matter of chance in which of the tail a lost star ends up, explained Dr. Jan Pliflam Altenburg of the Helmholtz Institute of Radiation and Nuclear Physics. So both tails should contain about the same number of stars. However, in our work, we were able to prove first time that this is not true. In the cluster we studied, the front tail always contains significantly more stars nearby to the cluster than the real tail. new method developed for counting stars. Until now, it has been almost impossible to determine from among the millions of stars close or clustered those that belong to its tails. To do this, you have to look at the velocity, direction of motion, and age of each of these objects, explained Dr. Teresa Jeda Bikova, the co-author of the paper who did her doctorate in groups, recently moved from the European Space Agency ESA of course, to the European Southern Observatory in Garching. She developed a method that allowed her to accurately count the stars in the tail for the first time. So far, 5 open clusters have been investigated near us, including 4 by us. She says, when analyze all the data, we encounter the contradiction with the current theory. The very precise survey data from ESA Gaia space mission were indispensable for this. The observational data, in contrast, fit much better with the theory that goes by the acronym MOND, Modified Newton Dynamics among experts. Put simply, according to MOND, stars can leave a cluster through two different doors. Croppa explained. One leads to the real tidal tail, the other to the front. However, the first is much narrower than the second, so it's less likely that a star will leave the cluster through it. Newton's theory of gravity, on the other hand, predicts that both doors should be the same width. Star clusters are shorter lived than Newton's law predicts. The team calculated the stellar distribution expected according to MOND. The result corresponds surprisingly well with the observation, highlight Dr. Ignathius, who played a key role in the corresponding simulations. However, we had to resort to a relatively simple computational method to do this. We currently lack the mathematical tools for the more detailed analysis of modified Newton dynamics. Nevertheless, the simulation also coincides with the observation in other respect. They predicted how long open star clusters should typically survive, and this time span is significantly shorter than would be expected according to Newton laws. This explains a mystery that has been known for a long time. Cropper points out, namely star clusters in nearby galaxies seems to be disappearing faster than they should. However, the Mond theory is not undisputed among theosophers, since Newton's law of gravity would not be valid under certain circumstances, but would have to be modified. This would have far-reaching consequences for other areas of physics as well. Then again, it solves many of the problems that cosmology faces today, explains Cropper. The team is now exploring new mathematical methods for even more accurate simulation. They could then be used to find further evidence as to whether the Mond theory is correct or not. Moving on towards next topic, scientists discovered exotic quantum state at room temperature. Okay. For the first time, physicists have observed novel quantum efforts in a topology insulator at room temperature. This breakthrough, published as the cover article of the October issue of Nature Materials, came from Princeton scientists explored a topological material based on the element bismuth. The scientists have used topological insulator to demonstrate quantum effects for more than a decade. But this experiment, the first time these efforts have been observed at room temperature, typically inducing and observing quantum states in topological insulator requires temperature around absolute zero, which is equal to minus 459 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 273 degrees Celsius. This findings open up a new range of possibilities for the deployment of efficient quantum technologies such as spin-based electronic, which may potentially replace many current electronic systems for higher energy efficiency. In recent years, the study of topological states of matter has attracted considerable attention among physicists and engineers and is presently the focus of much international interest and research. This area of study combines quantum physics with topology, a branch of theoretical mathematics that explores geometric properties that can be deformed but not intrinsically changed. The novel topological properties of matter have emerged as one of the most sought out treasures in modern physics, both from a fundamental physics point of view and for finding potential application in next generation quantum engineering and nanotechnology, said M. Zahid Hassan, the Igino Higgins Professor of Physics at Princeton University, who led the research. This work was enabled by multiple innovative experimental advances in our lab at Princeton, added Hassan. The main device component used to investigate the mysteries of quantum topology is called a topological insulator. This is a unique device that acts as an insulator in its interior, which means that the electrons inside are not free to move around and therefore do not conduct electricity. Oh, great man. However, the electrons on the device edges are free to move around, meaning they are conductive. Moreover, because of the special properties of topology, the electrons flowing along the edges are not hampered by any defects or deformation. This device has the potential not only of improving technology but also for generating a greater understanding of matter itself by probing quantum electronic properties. Until now, however, there has been a major stumbling block: the quest to use the material and devices for application in functional devices. There is a lot of interest in topological material, and people often talk about their great potential for practical application, said Hassan. But until some microscopic topological effect can be manifested at room temperature, these applications will likely remain unrealized. This is because ambient or high temperature create what physics call thermal noise, which is defined as a rise in temperature such that the atom began to vibrate violently. This action can disrupt delicate quantum systems, thereby collapsing the quantum state in topological insulator. In particular, these higher temperatures create a situation in which the electron on the surface of the insulator invades the interior or bulk of the insulator and cause the electron there to also begin conducting, which dilutes or breaks the spatial quantum effect. The way around this is to subject such experiment to exceptionally cold temperature, typically at or near absolute zero. At these incredibly low temperature, atomic and subatomic particles cease vibrating and are consequently easier to manipulate. However, creating and maintaining an ultra cold environment is impractical for many applications. It is costly, bulky, and consumes considerable amount of energy. But Hassan and his team have developed an innovative way to bypass this problem, building on their experience with topological materials and working with many collaborators. They fabricated a new kind of topological insulator made from bismuth bromide, chemical formula alpha B1 Bi4 bromium 4, which is an inorganic crystalline compound sometimes used for water treatment and chemical analysis. This is just terrific that we found them without giant pressure or an ultra high magnetic field, thus making the material more accessible for developing next generation quantum technology, said Nana Shumia, who earned her PhD at Princeton, is postdoctoral research associate in electrical and computer engineering, and is one of the three co-first authors of the paper. She added, I believe our discovery will significantly advance the quantum frontier. The discovery fruits lie in the working of the quantum Hall effect, a form of topological effect that was the subject of the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1985. Since the time, topological spaces have been intensely studied. Many new classes of quantum material with topology electronic structure have been found, including topology insulator, topology superconductors, topology magnets, and Whale semi-metal. While experimental discovery were rapidly being made, theoretical discovery were also processing important theoretical concept on two-dimensional 2D topological insulators were put forward in 1988 by F. Duncan Haldane, the Sherman Fairchild University professor of physics at Princeton. Theoretical is what? Important theoretical concept on two-dimensional through 2D topological insulator were put forward in 1988 by F. Duncan Haldane, the Sherman Fairchild University professor of Princeton of physics at Princeton. Sorry guys, I mean it's a repeat, so yep. He was awarded the Nobel Physics in Physics in 2016. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2016 for theoretical discovery of topological phase transition, a type of 2D topological insulator. Subsequent theoretical development showed the topology insulator can take the form of two copies of Haldane model based on electron spin orbit interaction. Hassan and his team have been a decade-long search for topology quantum state that may also operate at room temperatures. Following this discovery for the first example of three-dimensional topology insulators in 2007, recently they found a material solution to Haldane con- conjecture in a Kagom lattice magnet that is capable of operating at room temperatures, which also exhibit the desired quantization. The Kagom lattice topology insulator can be designed to possess relativistic band crossing and strong electron-electron interaction. Both are essential for novel magnetism, said Hassan. Therefore, we realized that Kagom magnet are a promising system in which to search for topology magnet phases, as they are like the topology insulator that we discovered and studied more than 10 years ago. A suitable atomic chemistry and structure design coupled to first principle theory is the crucial step to make topology insulator speculative prediction realistic in a high temperature setting, said Hassan. There are hundreds of topological material and we need both intuition, experience, material specific calculations, and intense experimental efforts to eventually find the right material for in-depth exploration, and that took us on a decade-long journey of investigating many bismuth-based materials. Insulators like semiconductors have what are called insulating or band gaps. These are in essence barriers between orbiting electrons or sort of no man's land where electrons cannot go. These band gaps are extremely important because, among other things, they provide the linchpin in overcoming the limitation of achieving a quantum state imposed by thermal noise. They do this if the width of the band gap exceeds the width of the thermal noise, but too large a band gap can potentially disrupt the spin orbit coupling of the electron. This is the interaction between the electron spin and its orbital motion around the nucleus. When this disruption occurs, the topological quantum state collapses. Therefore, the trick is inducing and maintaining quantum effect is to find a balance between a large band gap and the spin orbit coupling effects. Following a proposal by collaborator and co-author Fan Zhang and Jung Yo to explore a type of Weyl metals, Hassan and team studied the bismuth bromide family of material, but the team was not able to observe the Weyl phenomena in these materials. Hassan and his team instead discovered that the bismuth bromide insulator has properties that make it more ideal compared to a bismuth antimony based topological insulator. Bismuth antimony alloys that they had studied before. It has a large insulating gap of more than 200 millielectron volts. This is large enough to overcome thermal noise, but small enough so that it does not disrupt the spin orbit coupling effect and band inversion topology. Okay. In this case, in an odd experiment, we found a balance between spin-orbit coupling effects and large band gap width, said Hassan. We found there is a sweet spot where you can have relatively large spin-orbit coupling to create a topology test as well as raise the band gap without destroying it. It's kind of like a balance point for the bismuth-based material that we have been studying for a long time. The researchers knew they had achieved their goal when they viewed what was going on in an experiment through a subatomic resolution scanning tunneling microscope, a unique device that uses a property known as quantum tunneling, where electrons are funneled between the sharp metallic single atom tip of the microscope and the sample. The microscope used this tunneling current rather than light to view the world of electrons on the atomic scale. The researcher observed a clear quantum spin Hall edge state, which is one of the important properties that uniquely exist in topological systems. This required additional novel instrumentation to uniquely isolate the topological effect. For the first time, we demonstrated that there is a class of bismuth-based topological material that the topology survives up to room temperature, said Hassan. We are very confident of our result. This finding in the culmination of the many years of hard-won experimental work and required additional novel instrumentation. Ideas to be introduced in this experiment. Hassan has been a leading researcher in the field of experimental quantum topological materials with novel experimentation methodologies for over 15 years and indeed was one of the field's early pioneer researchers. Between 2005 and 2007, for example, he and his team of researchers discovered topological order in a three-dimensional bismuth antimony bulk solid, a semiconducting alloy, and related topological dielectric material using novel experiment methods. This led to the discovery of topology of magnetic material between 2014 and 2015. They discovered a new class of topology materials called magnetic wheel semimetals. The researchers believe this breakthrough will open the door to a whole host of future research possibilities and application in quantum technologies. We believe this finding may be the starting point for future development in nanotechnology, said Shafiat Hossain, a postdoctoral research associate in Hassan Lab, another co-first author of the study. There have been so many proposed possibilities in topological technology that await and finding appropriate material coupled with novel instrumentation is one of the key for this. One area of research where Hassan and his team believe this breakthrough will have particular impact is on next generation quantum technologies. The researchers believe this new breakthrough will hasten the development of more efficient, greener quantum materials. Currently, the theoretical and experimental focus of the group is concentrated in two directions, said Hassan. First, the researcher wants to determine what other topological material might operate at room temperature and importantly provide other scientists the tool and novel instrumentation method to identify material that will operate at room and high temperatures. Second, the researcher want to continue the probe deeper into quantum world now that this finding has made it possible to conduct experiments at high temperatures. These studies will require the development of another set of new instrumentations and techniques to fully harness the enormous potential of this material. I see a tremendous opportunity for further in-depth exploration of exotic and complex quantum phenomena with our new instrumentation tracking more finer details in microscopic quantum state, Hassan said. Who knows what we will discover? Our research is a real step forward in demonstrating the potential of a topological material for energy saving application, added Hassan. What we have done here with this experiment is planned a seed to encourage other scientists and engineers to dream big. So these are the studies on the quantum mechanics or quantum application where the topological materials being invested, that how many are being invented by this tool and this instrumentation methods. So, I mean, great man. Moving on towards next topic. Scientists discover material that can be made like a plastic but conducts like a metal. Okay. Scientists with the University of Chicago have discovered a way to create a material that can be made like a plastic but conducts electricity more like a metal. The research, published October 26 in Nature, shows how to make a kind of a material in which the molecular fragments are jumbled and discovered but can still conduct electricity extremely well. Okay. This goes against all of the rules we know about for conductivity to a scientist. It's kind of like seeing a car driving on water and still going 70 miles per hour. But the finding could also be extraordinarily useful if you want to invent something revolutionary. The process often first starts with discovering a completely new material. In principle, this opens up the design for a whole new class of material that conduct electricity, are easy to shape, and are very robust in everyday conditions, said John Anderson, an associate professor of chemistry at the University of Chicago and the senior author on the study. Essentially, it suggests new possibility for an extremely important technology group of material, said Jazia Z. PhD 22, now at Princeton, the first author on the paper. There isn't a solid theory to explain this. Conductive materials are absolutely essential if we are making any kind of electronic device, whether it be an iPhone, a solar panel, or a television. By far, the oldest and largest group of conductors is the metals. Copper, gold, aluminium. Then, about 50 years ago, scientists were able to create conductors made out of organic material using a chemical treatment known as doping, of course, which sprinkles in different atoms or electrons through the material. This is advantageous because these materials are more flexible and easier to process than traditional metals. But the trouble is they aren't very stable. They can lose their conductivity if exposed to moisture or if the temperature gets too high. But fundamentally, both of these organic and traditional metallic conductors share a common characteristic. They are made up of straight, closely packed rows of atoms or molecules. This means that electron can easily flow through the material, much like cars on an highway. In fact, scientists thought a material had to have these straight, orderly rows in order to conduct electricity efficiently. Then Z began experimenting with some material discovered years ago but largely ignored. He shrunk nickel atoms like pearls into a string of molecular beds made of carbon and sulfur, began testing. To the scientist's astonishment, the material easily and strongly conducted electricity. What's more, it was very scalable. We heated it, chilled it, exposed it to air and humidity, and even dripped acid and base on it, and nothing happened, said Z. This is enormously helpful for a device that has to function in the real world. But to the scientists, the most striking thing was that the molecular structure of the material was disordered from a fundamental picture that should not be able to be a metal, said Anderson. There isn't a solid theory to explain this. Z. Anderson and the lab worked with other scientists around the university to try to understand how the material can conduct electricity. After test, simulation, and theoretical works, they think that the material form layers like sheets in a lasagna, even if the sheets rotate sideways, no longer forming a neat lasagna stack. Electron can still move horizontally over vertical as long as the pieces touch. The end result is unprecedented for a conductive material. It's almost like conducting plate dough. You can smoosh it into a place and it conducts electricity, Anderson said. The scientists are excited because the discovery suggests a fundamental new design principle for electronic technology. Conductors are so important that virtually any new development opens up new lines for technology, they explained. One of the material attractive characteristics is new options for processing. For example, metal usually have to melt it in order to be made into the right shape for a chip or device, which limits what you can make with them. Since other components of the device have to uh, have to be able to withstand the heated needed to process these materials. The new material has no such restriction because it can be made at room temperature. It can also be used where the need for a device or pieces of the device to withstand heat, acid, or alkalinity or humidity has previously limited engineered option to develop new technology. The team is also exploring the different form and function the material might make. We think we can make it 2D or 3D, make it porous, or even introduce other functions by adding different linkers or nodes Z, Z. Moving on towards next topic, research into an ancient lineage of microscopic fungi appends an assumption about its genetic relationships. Micro, Mycologists tend to base their evolutionary assumption about all fungi on the higher fungi, such as mushrooms, bread molds, and yeast, but that is a mistake, according to a major recent study published in the Proceeding of the National Academy of Sciences. The trait that the higher fungi possesses are not indicative of the lower fungi. The early diverging fungi, said Raven Simmons, curator of fungi at the Purdue University Herbaria in the botany and plant pathology in the College of Agriculture. The evolutionary history of the often overlooked lineage of citrus pronounced chytrid fungi has vexed scientists for decades. The study has begun to clarify the complicated detail of this lineage, which diverged from the common ancestor that shared with the animals about 750 million to 1 billion years ago. It takes a lot of hard assumption about early diverging fungi and the increasing complexity of fungi as you walk up the tree throws them out of the window. Simpson said, "We showed that the Chartrids still possess a lot of features that link them to the common ancestor. In recent years, certain childred fungi have become a scourge of biodiversity. One infamous species of childred discovered by Simmons, graduate advisors, and paper co-authored Joyce Longcourt at the University of Maine has caused massive amphibian die-offs and extinctions. Key to the study was how fungi that use different reproductive strategies were related to each other. Haploid organism reproduce via mitosis, cell division, and has one set of chromosomes. Diploid organisms have two sets of chromosomes, one from each parent, and most commonly reproduce via meiosis. This produces two haploid gametes, such as sperm and egg in humans, which fuse to form a new diploid organism. We started to look at the haploid versus diploid relationship in this fungi as opposed to higher fungi like mushrooms, bread, molds, and yeast, things that people are commonly associated then they think of fungi. Simon said, "We found that a lot of primary assumptions that haploid give rise to diploid lifestyle, increasing complexity through the fungal kingdom were not true. These things were reproducing by mitosis, but they weren't always haploid. Some were diploid." Michael Clauses theorized that the higher fungi began as haploid that eventually gave rise to diploids. They thought the chytrids probably were much the same. It turns out, based on this genomic analysis, that's not the case, Simmons said. The cohort also included a team of scientists at the US Department of Energy Joint Genome Institute at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California, who generated genome sequence for 69 childred fungi. When Joyce started collecting childred, I think she had little idea of just how instrumental a role they would play in resolving some of the big questions in fungal evolution. From the origin of life cycle to ability to break down plant matter to helping solve the mystery of the amphibian pandemic, said the University of Michigan Timothy James, who led the study. It was a great pleasure working with Rayburn, who was a great bridge between the traditional microscopy approaches and the modern genomic methods. Two leading child fungi experts of the 20th century microscopy era were Purdue Jones Carling and the University of Michigan Frederick Spado. The new Pinos paper builds on Carling and Spado works. They had some things right and something wrong, Simpson said. Hopefully, we can take the best of what they did, the best of what we are doing, and further synthesize that into some excellent mycology that we can pass along to people that don't even think of child trade fungi when they think of fungi. Longcourt commented on how the long-term interplay between Purdue and the University of Michigan regarding child-reared fungi has turned out. Spado and Carling were not close, said Longcourt, who worked for Spado, and now Tim James has this great lab at the University of Michigan where Spado wrote this big monograph that includes the child traits and now Ravens at Purdue, and I hope he will have some time to work on child traits. It's a neat connection between Michigan and Purdue. Okay. Moving on to our next topic. Scientists warn in report that climate change has pushed Earth to code red. Okay. Writing in the Journal of Bioscience, an international coalition led by Oregon State University researcher says in a report published today that the Earth's vital signs have reached code red and that humanity is unequivocally facing a climate emergency. In the special report, World Scientists Warning of a Climate Emergency in 2022, the author note that 16 of 35 planetary vital signs they use to track climate change are at record extremes. The report's author shared new data illustrating increasing frequency of extreme heat events, rising global tree cover, loss because of fires, and a great prevalence of the mosquito-borne dengue virus. Further, they noted that atmospheric carbon dioxide levels have reached 418 parts per million, the highest on record. William Ripple, a distinguished professor in the OSE College of Forestry and postdoctoral research, Christopher Wolf, are the lead author of the report, and 10th other US and global scientists are co-authors. Look at all of these heat waves, fires, floods, and massive storms. Ripple said the specter of climate change is at the door and pounding hard. The report follows by 5 years the world scientists warning to humanity. The second note is published by Ripple and colleagues in bioscience and co-signed by more than 15,000 scientists in 184 countries. As we can see by annual surges in climate disasters, we are now in the midst of a major climate crisis with far worse to come if we keep doing these things the way we have been doing them, Wolf said. Climate change is not a standard issue, said co-author Samuel Hook of Independent University of Bangladesh. To avoid more untold human suffering, we need to protect nature, of course, eliminate most fossil fuel emission, and support social just climate adaptation with a focus on low income areas that are most vulnerable. The report points out that in these 3 decades since more than 1700 scientists signed the original World Scientist Warning to Humanity in 1992, global greenhouse gas emission have increased by 40%. As Earth temperature are creeping up, the frequency or magnitude of some types of climate disaster may actually be leaping up, said the University of Sydney Thomson Newsom, a co-author of the report. We urge our fellow scientists around the world to speak out on climate change. Okay, man. Okay, okay. Moving on to our next topic. New Scottish fossil sheds lights on the origin of lizards. Okay, it's an archaeological article, so let's read it and see what we get on our past fossil fuels and the lives, mammals' lives, of course. A fossil discovery from Scotland has provided new information on the early evolution of lizards during the time of the dinosaurs. The tiny skeleton discovered on the Isles of Skye, called Bella Ercia gracilis, is only 6 centimeters long and dates from the Middle Jurassic, 166 million years ago. The exceptional new fossil comprises a near complete skeleton in life like articulation, missing only the snout and tail. This makes it the most complete fossil lizard at this age anywhere in the world. Bella Aertia has a mixture of ancestral and modern features in its skeleton, providing evidence of what's the ancestor of today's lizards, which are a part of the wider animal group known as squamates, might have looked like. The research, a joint project between researchers at the University of Warsaw, Oxford, and UCL, is reported in the journal Nature. First author Dr. Maxwell Talenda, University of Warsaw and UCL, said, "This little fossil lets us see evolution in action. In paleontology, you rarely have the opportunity to work with such complete, well-preserved fossil coming from a time about which we know so little." The fossil was found in 2016 by a team led by Oxford University and National Museums, Scotland. It is one of the several new fossil discoveries from the island, including early amphibians and mammals, which are revealing evolution of important animal groups that persist to the present day. Dr. Talenda commented, Balencia has some modern lizard features like traits related to cranial kinsons, that's the movement of the skull bones in relation to one another. This is an important functional feature of many living squamates. Co-author Dr. Elsa Pen Creoli, Oxford University Museum of Natural History and National Museum, Scotland, who discovered the fossil, said it was one of the first fossils I found when I began working on Skype. The little black skull was poking out from the pale limestone, but it was so small I was lucky to spot it. Looking closer, I saw the tiny teeth and realized I had found something important, but we had no idea until later that almost the whole skeleton was in there. Squamates are the living group that includes lizard and snake and comprises more than 10,000 species today, making them one of the most species-rich living vertebrate animal group. They include animals as diverse as snakes, chameleons, and geckos found around the group. The group is characterized by numerous specialized features of the skull and rest of the skeleton. Although we knew the earliest origin of the squamates lie 240 million years ago in the Triassic, and a lack of fossil from the Triassic and Jurassic has made the early evolution and anatomy difficult to trace. Analyzing the new fossil alongside living and extinct fossil squamates confirm Bellertia belongs to the stem of the squamate family tree. This means it split from other lizards just before the origin of modern groups. The research also supports the finding the geckos are a very early branching lineage in the enigmatic fossils. Dentavis, previously suggested to be a dinosaur, is also a stem squamate. To study the specimen, the team used X-ray computer tomography CT, which, like medical CT, allows for non-invasive 3D imaging. This allowed the researcher to image the entire fossil, even though much of the specimen is still hidden by surrounding rock. Whereas medical scanners work at the millimeter scale, the Oxford University CT scanner revealed detail down to a few tons of micrometers. Parts of the skeleton were then imaged in even greater detail, including the skull, hind limbs, and pelvis. At the European Scranton ESRF Greno, France, the intensity of the Scranton beam permits a resolution of 4 micrometer, revealing details at the smallest bones in the skeleton. Co-author Professor Roger Benson, Department of Earth Sciences, University of Oxford, said fossils like the Bellershire specimen have huge value in the filling gaps in our understanding of evolution and the history of life on Earth. It used to be almost impossible to study such tiny fossils like this, but this study shows the power of new techniques, including CT scanning, to image these non-destructively and in great detail. Co-author Professor Susan Evans, UCL, who first discovered and named Blertia from a few jaw and skull bones from Oxfordshire 25 years ago, added, "It is wonderful to have a complete specimen of the tantalizing little lizard and to see where it fits in the evolutionary tree. Through fossils like Bellertia, we are gaining a better understanding of early lizard anatomy. Angus Bladus, the lizard embryologist, after which Bellertia was originally named, would have been delighted. Of course. Moving on towards next topic. The study was led by Dr. Matswitz Thelander, University of Warsaw, and world researcher from the University of Oxford, Earth Sciences Department, Oxford University Museum of Natural History, UCL, University College London, the European Screen Radiation Facility and the National History Museum in London and the National Museum of Scotland. The study will be published in Nature. Moving on towards next topic, researchers compress light 12 times below the diffraction limit in a dielectric material. Until recently, it is widely believed among physicists that it was impossible to compress light below the so-called diffraction limit. See below expect when using metal nanoparticle which unfortunately also absorb light. It therefore seemed impossible to compress light strongly in dielectric material such as silicon, which are key material in information technologies and come with important advantage that they do not absorb light. Interestingly, it was shown theoretically in 2006 that the diffraction limit also does not apply to dielectrics. Still, no use has succeeded in showing this in the real world simply because no one has been able to build the necessary dielectric nanostructure until now. A researcher team from the DTU has successfully designed and built a structure, a so-called dielectric nanocavity, which concentrate light in a volume 12 times below the diffraction limit. The result is groundbreaking in optical research and has been and has just been published in Nature Communications. All the computer calculations show that your concentrate light at an infinitely small point. This only applies in theory. The actual results are limited by how small details can be made. For example, on a microchip, says Marcus Albert Scranton, PhD student at DTU Electro and first author of the new article. We programmed our knowledge of real photonic nanotechnology and its current limitation into a computer. Then we asked the computer to find a pattern that collects the photons in an unprecedentedly small area in an optical nanocavity, which we were also able to build in the laboratory. Optical nanocavity are structures specially designed to retain light so that it doesn't propagate as we are used to, but is thrown back and forth as if you put two mirrors facing each other. The closer you place the mirrors to each other, the more intense the light between the mirror becomes. For this experiment, the researchers have designed a so-called Bouty structure, which is particularly effective at squeezing the photon together due to its special shape. The nanocavity is made of silicon dielectric material on which most advanced modern technology is based. The material for the nanocavity is developed in clean room laboratories at DTU, and the patterns on which the cavity is based are optimized and designed using a unique method of topology optimization developed at DTU. Initially developed to design bridges and aircraft wings, it is now also used for nanophotonic structures. It required a great joint effort to achieve this breakthrough. It has only been possible because we have managed to combine world leading research from several research groups at DTU, says Associate Professor Sodon Stoby, who has led the research work, important breakthrough for energy efficient technology. The discovery could be decisive for developing revolutionary new technologies that may reduce the amount of energy guzzling components in data centers, computer, telephones, and so on. The energy consumption for computers and data centers continue to grow, and there is a need for more sustainable chip architectures that use less energy. This can be achieved by replacing the electrical circuits with optical components. The researcher vision is to use the same division of labor between light and electron used for the internet, where light is used for communication and electronic for data processing. The only difference is that both functionalities must be built into the same chip, which requires the DDT shows that it is in fact possible. There is no doubt that this is an important step to developing a more energy efficient technology, for example, nano lasers for optical connection, data center and future computers. But there is still a long way to go, says Marcus Albert Scranton. The researcher will now work further and refine method materials to find the optimal solution. Now that we have the theory and method in place, we will be able to mode increasing intense photons as the surrounding technology develops. I am convinced that this is just the first of a long series of major development in physics and photonic nanotechnology centered around this principle, says Sodon Stoby. The diffraction limit. The theory of the diffraction limit describes that light cannot be focused to a volume smaller than half of the wavelength in an optical system. For example, this applies to the resolution in microscopes. However, nanostructure can consist of elements much smaller than the wavelength, which means that the diffraction limit is no longer a fundamental limit. Bouty structures, in particular, can compress the light into very small volumes limited by the size of the bouty and thus the quality of the nanofabrication. When the light is compressed, it becomes more intense, enhancing interaction between light and materials such as atoms, molecules, and 2D materials. Dielectric material are electrically insulating glass, rubber, and plastic are example of dielectric material, and they contrast with metals which are electrically conductive. An example of a dielectric material is silicon, which is often used in electronic but also photonics. So these are the studies on the times by the researcher given to us, of course. Uh, I mean, it's a last article. I guess I will cover one more article. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Study explores how visual effects in video games help players to make sense of game worlds. Okay, let's see. Visual effects, VFX, can help to make video games more engaging and immersive for players. However, they are often also designed to support players, for instance, by pointing them to specific location or highlighting helpful game features. Researchers at the University of California, Santa Cruz, UCSC, have recently carried out a study investigating the ways in which VFX can help video game players to make sense of the virtual worlds and environment they are navigating. The paper pre-published on RZIV and presented at the IEEE WIS workshop on visualization for the digital humanities. WIS for DH could guide the future development of both video games and data visualization tools. A study mostly builds upon our engagement with two distinct communities, the data visualization research and the video game communities. Henry Seo, one of the researchers who carried out the study, told Tech Explode. The computational media department at UCSC has a mixture of scholars interested in both media artifacts. The paper originated from my colleague Angus G. Forbes' observation of the general minimalish aesthetic as practice in wisdom in the data visualization research community, especially when it comes to visual effect, VFX, and animation. Some data visualization researchers argue that VFX and animation should only be used sparingly as they increase the visual loads on devices. Video game developers, on the other hand, generally use many VFX and animations as they can help players to make sense of game environments, rules, and features. Zio and Forbes, by examining how VFX are used in exciting video games, sought to better understand how VFX can aid video game players' sense making. They hope that this would also highlight valuable opportunities for the design of data visualization tools. At first, we picked games that we are familiar with and then try to diversify the selection in terms of genres like puzzles, action, and strategy games. Zio explained, we either looked through playthrough videos or played the game ourselves and then took note of what we are considered to the to be VFX animation. Afterward, we tried to think about how these effects are utilized to help players make sense of the gameplay situation. Through their analysis, Zio and Forbes were able to identify three of the most common use of VFX in video games. Firstly, they found that these effects can help to draw player attention to a specific game element, such as objects that are most relevant to the gameplay and that the player should interact with to win the games and or complete tasks. Secondly, VFX can help to represent the game mechanics, that is the key rules governing a game action and goals. For instance, if players are expected to shoot a specific target, VFX might help them to aim more accurately, showing them the area in the environment towards which they are directing their shot. Finally, VFX are also used to signal important gameplay events that are about to take place or that just occurred. These events could include anything from an enemy attacking to time running out on a timer or a transition to a different gameplay modality. I think it is valuable to open a communication channel between data visualization designer and game designers. Zhao said, much can be said about the similarities and differences between video games and data visualization tools. For example, the term mechanics is a common term in the video game community to describe what happens to the game system when actions are carried out. The recent work by Zhao and Forbes described some of the valuable ways in which VFX can help to represent different games, events, or features. The strategies identified in the paper could also be applied to data visualization tools to make them more engaging and intuitive. There are two branches of possibility that I am curious to explore about the mechanics of a visualization tool. Zhao said, first, if an interface visualization also develop mechanics of user interaction such as linking and brushing, can visual effects and animation help make these interactions richer, embed more information. Second, as data visualization is mostly about visualizing static data, which games are more about interacting with a dynamic and changing system, could we explore the design space where the user is interacting with an active simulation system that is like a game system, so the VFX animation become a much more relevant design tool. This recent work challenges the minimalist approach currently deployed by many developers creating data visualization tools. Zio and Forbes hope that their observation will ultimately pave the way for the greater use of VFX and animation in the data visualization designed to support user sense making processes. We see a lot of data visualization examples outside of academic research communities with various aesthetic decisions like NYT data, journalist articles, and educational YouTube system videos. Zio added, academic data visualization tool research often focuses on the data encoding and views that their tool enables, but not particularly how they make aesthetic decisions to make the tool more engaging for the intended audience. This sharing of engagement is not just about aesthetics. These decisions are also impact the way user make sense of the tool and insights they can take from using them. Of course, man, of course. In this next studies, Zio would like to further explore the use of VFX in both video games and data visualization tools. To better map the similarities and differences between these two media domains, in addition, he plans to apply the ideas summarized in his recent work to create prototypes of feature of visualization tool. For instance, he is currently collaborating with another researcher at UCSC to create a VFA supported data visualization tool for high school education. So these are the things, these are the study on the visual effect in those things. So yep. Moving on to the next topic. A telltale protein spreads throughout the brain in distinct pattern based on patient Alzheimer phenotype. New imaging of patients with Alzheimer demonstrated how telltale protein spread throughout the brain based on the phenotype of the disease, that is, whether the condition is dominated by forgetfulness or atrophy in a specific brain region. The research offered a host of eliminating clues that ultimately may inform new treatment strategies. The protein is known as tau, and a large multidisciplinary team of brain researchers at McGill University in Montreal has been able to trace the protein patterns in living patients via magnetic resonance imaging (MRI). Alzheimer's disease is intimately linked to tau, which can be formed tangles in a brain that irrevocably damages neurons. The pattern detected by McGill scientists apparently are unique to the phenotype of the Alzheimer afflicting the patient. This staggering finding opens an intriguing new window into the molecular mechanism of this disease, and while many features of the Alzheimer are the same from one patient to the next, phenotypes are the hallmark of the condition. Tracking down patterns is a specialty of the scientists at McGill, which found that the intrinsic connectivity of the human brain itself provides the scaffolding of the aggregation of tau in distinct variation of the disease. Although some of the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease are conserved among patients, multiple phenotypes exist, writes Dr. Joseph Theriot of the Translational Neuroimaging Laboratory at McGill University and lead author of the tau imaging research. Alzheimer's disease phenotypes might result from differences in selective vulnerability of each patient therapeutic contents. In the research published in Science Translational Medicine, Theory and his McGill colleagues defined the phenotype of Alzheimer's as amnestic, referring to memory loss, visual, visuospatial, the inability to process information about 3D shapes, language-oriented concerns, referring to word usage problem. This would include difficulty choosing or recalling the right word. Language problem can progress, expert says, causing impairment in patient ability to express themselves. A specific form of language usage problem in Alzheimer's is referred to as a logopenic variant primary progressive aphasia or PPA. Patients with IVPPA have increasing trouble thinking of the word they want to say. As Alzheimer's progresses, these patients have more trouble getting the words out, which eventually causes them to speak slurred. Another category outlined in the research is the behavioral and sex dice executive phenotype. Behavioral concerns can include any number of issues covering a wide range. The National Institute on Aging, a division of the National Institute of Health in the United States, defines common behavior as getting upset, worried, or angry more easily, being depressed, and uninterested in activity that were once enjoyed, hiding things or thinking that other people are hiding things, imagine imagining things that aren't there, pacing, wandering away from home, or showing unusual sexual behavior. The DICE executive phenotype refers to more of a syndrome in which an individual's ability to multitask, organize, and plan is lost. The Canadian team defined still other Alzheimer's phenotypes, people with posterior cortical atrophy and progressive aphasia, how tiny protein tau plays a role in such complex Alzheimer's phenotypes in the scientific ocean, fueling the year-long McGill investigation. The researchers are eliminating tau role in the slow unraveling of the human mind. Theodore and colleagues used MRI scan to track the spread of tau in the brain of patients with four types of Alzheimer's disease. Amnestic 28 patient, behavioral dice executive 15 patient, posterior cortical atrophy 19 patient, and logopenic variant primary progressive aphasia 11 patient. As a comparison, the team also performed MRI scan on 131 age matched control who were cognitively unimpaired. The scientists linked each phenotype of Alzheimer's disease to specific patterns of tau aggregation and found that tau seeds often appeared in areas of the brain that act as connective hubs. Tau is actually an acronym that stands for Tubulin Associated Unit. There is a family of about 6 of these proteins, and when healthy, all are endowed with roles of maintaining the stability of microtubes, which are tough polymers shaped like tubes. Microtubules make up the structure of healthy cells. Something cell biologists refer to as the cytoskeleton. Tau is abducted in neurons, and the brain cerebral cortex has the highest concentration. But Theodore and colleagues tapped into the darker side of tau, toxic tau, evident protein that are present in various inflammatory brain disorder, including Alzheimer's, other form of dementia, and Parkinson's disease. Each Alzheimer's disease phenotype is associated with a distinct network specific pattern of tau aggregation, where tau aggregation is concentrated in brain network hubs. In all Alzheimer's disease phenotypes, regional tau load could be predicted by connectivity patterns of the human brain. Theodore added, furthermore, region with greater connectivity display similar rates of longitudinal tau accumulation. Tau isn't the only deleterious protein in Alzheimer's disease. Many people are familiar with the term plagues and tangles as a description of the pathology defining the Alzheimer's brain. Plagues refer to the gummy words of amyloid protein. The neurofibrillary tangles are the aggregates of the hyperphosphorylated tau, although fierce debate has raged for decades as to whether it is the plagues of amyloid beta or the tangles of tau that triggered Alzheimer's. Neither has been declared the primary suspect. The McGill research team the balance in favor tau, a misfolded protein with a prime-like behavior. Prions are misfolded protein that cause a wider range of devastating mammalian brain diseases. Nobel Prize winning neurologist Stanley Prusiner earlier this month predicted Alzheimer's eventually would be defined as a plant triggered disease. Prusiner, director of the Institute of Neurodegenerative Disease and professor of neurology at the University of California, San Francisco, made the claim during the 5th annual Constellation Forum, a symposium sponsored by Northwell Health, New York State, largest healthcare system. Previous preclinical research has suggested that tau can spread from neuron to neuron along synapses in the brain, similar to how prions spread through the brain is infected mammals such as cattle overcome and by so-called mad cow disease. Understanding the spread of tau may eventually inform new treatment approaches for Alzheimer's diseases. Our results have implications for the development of the next generation of anti-tau therapies, Theodore asserted. So these are the things, these are the studies based on this tantalizing protein things given by our researcher based on the Alzheimer's disease, which is, great for many of the patients and the doctors out there. Moving on to our next topic. Okay. Real time Real time space observation can now keep watch over super emitter power plants. Okay. Sorry guys. Countries signed up to the 2015 Paris Agreement have committed themselves to keep the rise in average global temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius. Every 5 years, there are two issues so-called National Determinant Contribution (NDC) describing their action to reduce greenhouse gas (GHG) emission that adapt to climate change impacts. Countries will thus need to track their carbon emission at uh, not at national level but also at the scale of individual super emitters such as power plants, megacities, refineries, and giant factories, together responsible for nearly half of the humanity total output of GHGs. In late 2025 or 2026, the EU plans to launch its CO2M Copernicus anthropogenic CO2 monitoring mission pair of satellites whose job will be to help with this important proof of principle for CO2M. But now scientists have shown that such tracking at the source is already possible, even with exciting satellites for super emitters like the Belenshov power plant in Poland. For this proof of principle, they used 5 years of measurement from NASA satellite orbiting Carbon Observatory to OCO-2 launched in 2014 and the instrument OCO-3 attached in 2019 in the International Space Station ISS. The success is an important achievement as the OCO missions were designed to measure carbon emission at much larger spatial scales. Here we show for the first time that it's already possible to measure changes in CO2 emissions from a large power plant with observation from exciting CO2 tracking satellites, said Dr. Ray Nassar, an atmospheric scientist at Environment and Climate Change Canada, Toronto, and the study first author published in Frontiers in Remote Sensing. Largest power plant in Europe, the Blanchov lignite fired brown coal power plant in the largest thermal power station in Europe, the fifth largest in the world. Here units are sometimes decommissioned and new one in put in service, while more often units shut down temporarily for maintenance. To be of use, satellites and instruments like OCO-2 and OCO-3 should immediately detect changes in CO2 emission. Due to these changes in operation, and here NASA and colleagues show for the first time that they can. Moving on to our next topic, CO2 is emitted by the 300-meter high stakes at Belenshov and carried by the wind in the form of an invincible plume approximately 10 to 15 kilometers long and 550 meters above Earth. OCO-2, which orbits the Earth at an altitude of 705 kilometer passes every 16 days close by or directly over Belenshov. OCO-3 orbits at an altitude of 420 kilometer passes over and near Belenshov more frequently. OCO-3 has the added capability to scan back and forth across the region, giving better local coverage or a wider view. Not every flyby or overpass is suitable. Satellite can access the CO2 enhancement, extra CO2 emitted by source only in the absence of clouds and when the plume doesn't pass over large water bodies or mountains. The measure X CO2, the average CO2 concentration across a column directly below, subtracting the current background value locally on average 415 perimeter around the plume. Together OCO-2 and OCO-3 yielded 10 suitable datasets about the CO2 plume above Belenshov between 2017 and 2022. Excellent agreement between observed and predicted data. The researcher compared the measurement from space to estimates for Belenshov emission based on its known daily power generation output. The measurement turned out to closely track the daily predictions. This proved that even today, existing satellites can track emission in close to real time for installation like Belenshov. For example, OCO-2 detected a pronounced but transient dip in emission from Belenshov between June and September 2021 due to shutdowns for maintenance. All cleared for CO2M The results are promising. They indicate that CO2M with a joint spatial coverage about 100 times greater than OCO2 and OCO3 will be able to deliver on future needs. The capacity to get the most precise information about CO2 emission from super emitters such as Blenstrove power plant across the globe will boost transparency in carbon accounting and hopefully. Sorry guys. Sorry. Spatial coverage about 100, right. The capacity to get the most precise information about CO2 emission from super emitters such as Blenstrove power plant across the globe will boost transparency in carbon accounting and hopefully it will ultimately help to reduce these emissions, said NASA. This future capacity will lead to improved CO2 emission information at the scale of countries, cities, or individual facility, enhancing transparency under, under the Paris Agreement and supporting efforts to reduce emission causing climate change. Moving on towards next topic. Traces of ancient ocean discovered. Traces of ancient ocean discovered on Mars. Okay. A recently released set of topography maps provide new evidence for an ancient northern ocean on Mars. The maps offer the strongest case yet that the planet once experienced sea level consistent with an extended warm and wet climate, not the harsh frozen landscape that exists today. With what immediately comes to mind as one of the most significant points here is that the existence of an ocean of the size means a higher potential for life, said Benjamin Cardenas, assistant professor of geosciences at Penn State and lead author on the study, recently published in the Journal of Geophysical Research. Planets. It also tells us about the ancient climate and its evolution based on three findings. On these findings, we know there had to have been a period when it is warm enough and the atmosphere were thick enough to support this much liquid water at one time. There has been a long debate in the scientific community about whether Mars had an ocean in it, low elevation northern hemisphere. Cardinals explained. Okay, using topographic data, the research team was able to show definitive evidence of a roughly 3.5 billion year old shoreline with substantial sedimentary accumulation at least 900 meters thick that cover hundreds of thousands of square kilometers. The big novel thing that we did in the paper was saying about Mars in the term of its stratigraphy and a sedimentary record. Cardina said, on Earth, we chart the history of waterways by looking at sediment that is deposited over time. We call that stratigraphy, the idea that water transports sediment, that you can measure the change on Earth by understanding the way that sediment piles up. That's what we have done here, but it's Mars. The team used software developed by the United States Geological Survey to map data from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration NASA in the Mars Orbital Laser altimeter. They discovered over 6,500 kilometers of fuel ridges and grouped them into 20 systems, to show that the ridges are likely eroded river deltas or submarine channel belts, the remnants of an ancient Martian shoreline, elements of rock formation such as red system, thickness, elevation, locations, and possible sedimentary flow direction help the team understand the evolution of the region paleogeography. The area that was once ocean is now known as Aeol- Aeolis dorsa and contains the densest collection of future ridges on the planet, Cardenas explained. The rock in the Aeolis dorsa captured some fascinating information about what the ocean was like. He said it was dynamic, the sea levels rose significantly, rocks were being deposited along its basin at a fast rate. There was a lot of change happening here. Cardinal explained that on Earth the ancient sedimentary basin contains the strat- stratigraphic records of evolving climate and life. If scientists want to find a record of life on Mars, an ocean as one of the once covered Helios Dorsa would be the most logical place to start. A major goal for the Mars Curiosity rover missions is to look for signs of life, Cardinal said. It's always been looking for water, for traces of habitable life. This is the biggest one yet. It's a giant body of water fed by sediments coming from the highlands, presumably carrying nutrients. If there were tides on ancient Mars, they would have been here, gently bringing in and out water. This is exactly the type of place where ancient Martian life could be could have evolved. Cardinals and his colleagues have mapped what they have determined are other ancient waterways on Mars. An upcoming study in the Journal of Sedimentary Research shows various outcrops visited by Curiosity rover were likely sedimentary strata from ancient river bars. Another paper published in Nature Geoscience applies an acoustic imaging technique used to view stratigraphy beneath the Gulf of Mexico sea floor, to a model of Mars-like basin erosion. The researcher determined the landform called fuel ridges found widely across Mars are likely ancient river deposits eroded from large basins similar to Helios dorsa. The stratigraphy that we are interpreting here is quite similar to stratigraphy on Earth, Cardenas said. Yes, it sounds like a big claim to say we have discovered records of large waterways on Mars, but in reality, this is relatively mundane stratigraphy. It is textbook geology once you recognize it for what it is. The interesting part, of course, is it's on Mars. So these are the study on the basis of the ancient ocean discovered based on these things. So yep, I mean great man, great findings. That's the last article of this podcast. At last, I just wanna say you guys keep researching, stay curious, stay healthy.